Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Enola Holmes 2. Enola Holmes 2 is a mystery film serving as a sequel to the previous Enola Holmes entry, and continues the story of its titular protagonist following its events. Enola opens a detective for hire agency in London, but has a hard time finding work due to her brother Sherlock's more notable status. Eventually, though, a girl approaches and asks her to take on a missing persons case, to which she agrees. Enola soon realizes that there's more to this case than meets the eye, as the information she finds links to a potential conspiracy that will put her life in danger, so she has to do everything that she can to solve it with the help of her friends and, of course, Sherlock himself. I actually found myself enjoying this sequel more than the previous movie. It still has its issues, but on the whole it feels tighter and more focused with its narrative, and still retains the charm and tone present from the first movie, making it a definite improvement from the original. As with her first outing, Millie Bobby Brown is fantastic in the role of Enola. She wields an incredible level of charisma and energy as she holds her own in the action scenes and gets more of an opportunity to show off her detective skills this time around. Because she continues to live in her brother's shadow, she still has to prove herself in her chosen occupation as a detective, as well as managing the pressure of being a woman of the Victorian era. So her multiple struggles in this regard make it easy to become attached to her. It does feel like her conflicts are repeating themselves from the first movie, but Brown's performance makes them feel fresh again. Henry Cavill is just as great as Sherlock Holmes too, and I'm glad that he has a lot more screen time to share with Enola this time. I know that she's the main character and it's supposed to be about her, but with Sherlock being more present here, it helps give the audience a better perspective into how well the two compare and contrast with each other. I like how they're portrayed almost as friendly rivals. Enola does her best to analyze and deduce things, while Sherlock always seems to be one step ahead of her and catches something that she misses. This makes their interactions a lot of fun and adds more spontaneity to the narrative. While they do compete with each other in some sense, when push comes to shove, the brother-sister relationship is strong and they always have each other's backs. I just liked how much more fleshed out their bond was this time around, and I'm also glad that the other brother Mycroft is completely absent from this movie, as I felt he didn't really add anything to the first one beyond being a forced source of conflict. Lots of other characters do return though, as well as some new ones being thrown into the mix. My favorite one being the cop named Grail, who's played by David Thewlis. He does a great job at portraying a corrupt slimeball and being a constant thorn in Enola's side. Pretty much every character from Enola's mother Eudoria to the missing Sarah Chapman contributes to the story in their own unique way. No character ever feels disposable and always has some part to play, which makes it enjoyable as a mystery, because I was always paying attention to every single character, especially the minor ones, to see if they drop any clues behind the conspiracy. This leads me to talk about the overarching mystery surrounding the film. I don't want to give too much away about it because part of the fun of watching a mystery is, well, the mystery behind it, but it's more or less what you'd expect. Enola gets a case thrown onto her lap, goes around looking for clues, and confronts the culprit responsible for it. What I like more about this film's mystery as opposed to the previous one is that it feels tighter and more focused in approach. It's not constantly switching priorities with its story and getting sidetracked with her mother's subplot, and feels a lot more like a traditional detective story this time around. This is reflected by the increased amount of clues she finds in the sequel, which was great to see, because it reflects Enola's growing skill as a detective. She's able to see and deduce things better than she did last time, so the movie does a great job at showing how she grows as a character, even if some of the clues are a bit far-fetched at times. Beyond this, the mystery just feels more satisfying. There's greater stakes at play compared to the first one, which makes sense since it's a sequel, so it has to up the ante. It's rewarding to see both Enola and Sherlock teaming up and trying to piece things together while trying to overcome this big conspiracy that threatens the economic stability of London and England at large. Because of this and the nature of their jobs, the movie is equipped with a healthy dose of action scenes as well. It features a mix of chase scenes and good old-fashioned brawls that the characters have to duke their way out of. The suspense behind the chases is enjoyable, and the fights have great stunt choreography and use of props to make them more exciting. The movie adds further entertainment value thanks to its comedy, a lot of which is taken from the first movie in the form of title cutaways, witty dialogue, and Enola breaking the fourth wall. My favorite moment was when Enola shows up to a party thinking it's a masquerade, and she proceeds to hilariously fumble her way through the event while still maintaining her usual sense of charm. The production and costume design are still as amazing as always. There's so much painstaking attention to detail with how every building and prop looks, it's almost mind-boggling at times. It feels like stepping into a time portal just from watching it, and it's a true testament to the filmmaker's passion for caring so much about its setting. Now, while I do think this movie is better than its predecessor, it ultimately isn't anything no one hasn't seen before. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, as it still has plenty to offer in terms of characters and personality, but because it's a more traditional detective story, the plot structure is more straightforward and thus a bit more predictable. What bothered me more, though, was how inconsistent it was with its theme regarding feminism. It's still there just like it was in the first movie, but here it feels more like an afterthought, as it only ever becomes a focal point toward the end of the movie, and even that felt forced in execution. I also wasn't a fan of how generic the romance was between Enola and Tewksbury. Now, I like Tewksbury as a character, and his relationship with Enola in the first movie was one of my favorite things about it, but there's something about it here that doesn't really work for me. They don't share a lot of screen time together in the first third or so of the movie, which doesn't leave a lot of time for them to pick things up from where they left off. The pair still has great chemistry together, and I know they sort of already have feelings for each other, but the pacing of their relationship here was a bit too fast in my opinion. Most of these things are little more than nitpicks though. As a mystery, the story is what matters most, and the filmmakers did a good job of ironing out the flaws of the first movie and making a more coherent second one. And though its plot structure is fairly formulaic, there's still plenty of twists and turns to keep things interesting. Overall, Enola Holmes 2 is a fun mystery film and a great sequel that improves upon its predecessor in just about every way. If you're a fan of the first movie or like mystery movies in general with a lot of visual flair to them, you should check this one out. There are some things I wish this movie improved upon from the original, but they never hamper this sequel's efforts in the long run. Based on the way this movie ends, I think it's safe to say that a third one is well on its way, and could prove to be the most interesting case that Enola has taken yet. What did you think about this movie? Did you think it was better than the first movie, or did you think it fell short by comparison? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Enola Holmes 2. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the American animation, the soccer football movie. Bye bye!